Prince Harry has lost his appeal to reinstate his state-funded United Kingdom security, which he says was unjustly revoked after he stepped back from royal duties and relocated to the USA in 2020. Now, I've given my opinion on this previously. I think it makes perfect sense for Prince Harry, who is resident in the United States and no longer a working royal, to not have the same level of taxpayer-funded security that other members of the royal family do, and the courts have agreed with this. They have denied his appeal. Today, Friday the 2nd of May, Judge Sir Geoffrey Voss dismissed the appeal, adding that the two other judges agreed with his opinion. Delivering the verdict, he says, quote, "The Duke was, in effect, stepping in and out of the cohort of protection provided by RAVEC, the government's Royal and VIP Executive Committee. Outside the UK, he was outside the cohort, but when in the UK, his security would be considered as appropriate depending on the circumstances. It was impossible, I said in my judgment, to say that this reasoning was illogical or inappropriate. Indeed, it seemed sensible." The judge calling RAVEC's decision on Prince Harry's security understandable and perhaps predictable. So in short, he's basically saying here that his earlier decision that Prince Harry shouldn't have the same level of security makes perfect sense because he's in and out of UK security and risk assessments are undertaken anyway, saying that RAVEC's decision is understandable. Now, the Duke of Sussex actually did travel from California to attend the two-day hearing at the Royal Courts of Justice on the 8th and 9th of April, and now today it has been denied. And for years he's been fighting the restoration of this state-funded security, telling People magazine on the 9th of April, not long ago, he said he was exhausted and overwhelmed, and this was the one that mattered the most to him. This was the legal battle that mattered the most to Prince Harry, but he has lost this one. Now, Prince Harry has since come out and given his reaction in an exclusive interview with the BBC, who had one of their correspondents go out to near his home and interview him there. Now, quickly to cover before we get into that interview what the BBC has already covered with this, they have come out and said that this is a very personal dispute for Harry and has become an emblem of his sense of exclusion, not just about security, but his sense of belonging and his relationship with his family and the country of his birth. So to Prince Harry, the BBC are saying that this is quite symbolic in his mind. He has said that the concern about lack of security has been an important reason not to bring his wife Meghan and their two children back to the UK, and this argument seemed to have become a wider emblem for his sense of unfair treatment, Prince Harry painting himself basically as the victim here. And this has been a long and protracted and often complex courtroom battle, with the judge apparently recognising this, saying that Harry clearly, quote, "felt badly treated by the system, but found that such a sense of grievance, like a personal feeling that he'd been a victim of the system, did not add up to a sufficient legal challenge." And my reaction to this is basically, suck it up, Harry. You live in the USA, you're not coming over to the UK very often, and why should we have to pay taxpayer money towards your state-funded security to a level to match other working royals when you're not even resident in the UK anymore? You barely come over here, and when you do, there are risk assessments anyway. So to me, it makes perfect sense, this ruling. But now let's get on to this interview. So essentially, Prince Harry is saying that he wants reconciliation with the rest of the royal family in this kind of emotive interview in which he said he was devastated about losing this legal challenge over his security in the UK. And I'll play you a clip now. It's about 3 minutes long. It's the BBC breaking down this interview into its most important parts, and then we'll have a discussion about it afterwards as well. So here's that clip.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK. Of course I do, and I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland. There is a lot of control and ability in my father's hands. Ultimately, this whole thing could be resolved through him, not necessarily by intervening, but by stepping aside, allowing the experts to do what is necessary and to carry out an RMB. That said, this all was initiated under a previous government. And there is now a new government I have had it described to me, once people knew about the facts, that this is an good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up, and that's what it feels like. There have been so many disagreements, differences between me and some of my family. This current situation that has been ongoing for 5 years with regard to human life and safety is the sticking point. It is the only thing that's left. Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things. But, you know, there is. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile. As I learned through the First Nations throughout Canada, because of the Invictus Games, their goal in life was always truth and reconciliation. And I turned around to them in many conversations and I said, right, but reconciliation can't come without truth. Well, I've now found out the truth. I've shared some of it with you today. A lot of it exists out there, whether people choose to ignore it or not. So it would be nice to have that reconciliation part now. If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
Okay, so Prince Harry says some pretty significant things in this interview. As always, he tries to paint himself as the victim, so take it all with a pinch of salt as we are going into this. But he is saying he wants reconciliation with the rest of the royal family, and he was devastated about losing the legal challenge. He says at present he was cut off from his father, King Charles, saying he won't speak to me because of the security stuff, adding he didn't know how long the king had left to live. Now, about the defeat in court, he said that he felt let down and he was looking quite upset. I don't know if this was genuine, but he probably is feeling quite bad about losing this. And obviously court battles cost a lot of money, so he's probably not too thrilled about that either. But he did want to overturn these changes to his security, and he said he felt let down and described his court defeat as good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up. And I do remember him mentioning that it was conducted under a previous government, and now we've got a new government, and he was hoping that there would be some changes here, and also blamed the royal household for influencing the decision to reduce his security. He was asked whether he had asked his father, the king, to intervene in the dispute, and Prince Harry said, "I never asked him to intervene, I asked him to step out of the way and let the experts do their jobs." Now, I had reported in a previous video I'd made about this court battle that some of King Charles's closest advisors are closely linked to that Ravik group that decides about security, and that King Charles was kind of staying out of this whole issue, not making any obvious moves either way, because he didn't want to get involved in the drama of this whole thing. Now, Prince Harry also said his treatment during the process of deciding his security had uncovered my worst fears, and his court defeat and the prospect of his security arrangements remaining unchanged meant that he would be unwilling to bring his family, that being Meghan Markle and his 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, to the UK. He felt it was not likely that they were going to get to experience his homeland, and he did say he was always fond of Britain. Obviously, he has served in the British Armed Forces as well, being deployed to Afghanistan, so I do think he is patriotic about the UK, but he is very estranged from the UK, and after all he has done to his family, many people in the UK are not a fan of Prince Harry, and that is understandable. He said, "I can't see a world in which I would bring my wife and children back to the UK at this point." Now, this is a developing story. This is as much information I can glean from the BBC at the moment, so they've just published this interview, and so if there is a more detailed breakdown, or Prince Harry comes out with more statements, or his legal team do, or indeed the court publishes anything more, the Courts of Justice, I will update you on here. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.